we all have our ups and downs, and you never know what somebody's going through. Certain things can come out of the blue all of a sudden and hit a family really hard. And remember that everybody is somebody's somebody. Everybody is somebody's mother, father, sister, brother. So please treat them with kindness and respect, even if they don't treat you nicely. They woke up in intent, you did not.
Reach out and help, because Skid Row is one of the places that it still shocks me when I talk about it today. It really still shocks me, and it's so sad because, I didn't want to say this, but I will say this. The government's not helping. Today, we have Elani K of Starts With One Today, a nonprofit that helps those experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles, California, United States of America. Welcome to Compassiviste Dialogues. I'm Ali Horiak. My goal in this program is to educate our audience about various world issues and how we can help. Today, we have Elani K of Starts With One Today, a nonprofit that helps those experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles, California, United States of America. Elani, you're a board member and you're extremely involved, from what I know, with the cause. Can you tell the global audience more about Starts With One Today Foundation, in the sense of, I know Skid Row, you know Skid Row, but people maybe outside California or outside the United States don't necessarily know where that is, how big it is, what it's about, how it functions. And a lot of people can't believe it when they hear about it. It's kind of like the first time I heard about the Mole in Vegas. I used to go there all the time for your party. All these people are gambling. There's a lot of money flowing around, to find out there's a whole city of homelessness. And then, in LA, the same thing. When I first learned about Skid Row, I was at a studio, a recording studio, because we also work with music. And it just happened to be in the area. And it's a very popular studio. I mean, big producers, big people. And it was dead in the middle of that space. And that's where I got my first whiff of, that exists, in a sense. And I wasn't oblivious. I know there's Malibu. I know there's Pacific Palisades and Hollywood and all of those. But I did not know. I just thought, maybe South Central LA, things like that, but never to the extreme of Skid Row. And so I really want you to explain to people in a way that they can visually imagine. You see India, you see LA, not like a romanticized version of the poor.
Right. Okay, so I appreciate all of that. So Skid Row of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is in California. Los Angeles is adjacent to Hollywood. So what we're talking about is Skid Row. It's, maybe about, 10 by 10 blocks, give or take a little bit. And what it is, it's very condensed, okay, to where it is tent after tent after tent, or just, mattresses and just trash and junk and people just completely overtaking the streets and the sidewalks. And, it's mainly like the industrial areas. So as far as the buildings, there are buildings, they are on the sidewalks of these buildings. I don't particularly know if all of them are abandoned or if they're operating or not. But if you do drive around Skid Row and you just turn the corner, it's just it almost feels endless if you just stay within that sort of section. And you truly feel like this can't possibly be Los Angeles or in California. California is one of the wealthiest states of all of the United States of America, right? Los Angeles is huge. And so it is really incredible, the stark difference between how, you have your super ultra wealthy, and then you have this level of poverty existing, right around the corner. So literally you might go a few blocks down the way, and then, you're talking about some of your high-end hotels, or high-end restaurants. And then just literally in walking distance, a few minutes away, then, there's somebody just lying on the sidewalk with no shoes, So I remember driving around Skid Row prior to the pandemic, and it it looked pretty awful then, but after the pandemic, even worse, even worse. The numbers grew, and just seeing much more people out there on the street. It was very significant, and also to me very visually different too as well.
Okay. So it's real poverty. It's not some, they are just poorer. They don't drive a Mercedes, they drive a regular car. It's not like that. It's actually, like you said, someone lying on the side of the road, without shoes on, that level of poverty.
Yeah.
Now, you and, the whole team there, you guys do weekly fresh food and basic necessities drives to Skid Row, and you reach a certain amount of people there, and you do it come rain or sunshine. It's a program that you guys have. Tell me how this started, because where do you get the food, where do you get the supplies, how did all of this come to be?
So a good friend of mine, her name is Victoria Beck. So she actually, well, her story is a very interesting story. So from the country that she's from, right now I'm drawing a blank on if it's Norway. I believe it is Norway.
Okay.
Yeah, apologize, Victoria, if I'm wrong about that. Right. But so her father actually was a part of the Skid Row community out there. And so when she moved to the U.S., she felt drawn to wanting to give back to those that were in Skid Row. And so she adopted a few families. She just would kind of walk around Skid Row, passing out things that she had. So she also happens to be an influencer, and so in the fitness world and whatnot, and health,
Health.
sector. Yeah, health sector. And so one day she grabbed a group of people, and they decided that, they're going to actually set up a table and offer food to the houseless. And so that's kind of what birthed the idea of Starts With One today. And so now we just have celebrated our 3rd year anniversary. And when I say that she has not missed a Sunday, so we are out there every Sunday starting at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to about 11:30. And literally, I mean, Christmas, New Year's, birthdays, whatever holiday, rain, hail, thunder, lightning, anything, like she has been there. Now, I haven't been there every single Sunday, but I've been there as many Sundays consistently if I'm, in town. So the thing is that early on, she was able to secure a contract with Whole Foods. And so Whole Foods is the provider of all of the food that we're able to offer. So we're not offering just, pizza and chips and junk food and all of that, but actually giving them the opportunity to almost like grocery shop. I mean, and, Whole Foods is pretty expensive, right? So,
I mean, ironically, you're giving them Hollywood quality food.
So they start off with the option. This is like mint pineapple, in the package. And then they have the fresh, your oranges, bananas, apples, and goes on to the vegetables like bell peppers, mushrooms, ginger. And then you have your salads. And then we have like the marketplace, which is like, your wraps or bowls or sandwiches or like mixed quinoa dishes, things like that. And then also we'll have just like a few, options of meat and eggs and milk. And then we may have like some boxed stuff. And then we have the pastries and breads. So we started off with just that. And then we expanded to being able to also add clothes. And so we've had some amazing clothing donors too as well, that offered like 5,000, I think, boxes of like shirts, long sleeves, collared shirts, like from True Classic. And literally it's just been endless of just, shirts and clothes and long sleeves and hoodies and things like that. So from there, we've had blanket drives, shoe drives. And actually, so we've had over now at least 1,300 volunteers. And so the way that Starts With One Today has grown has literally been because of Instagram and TikTok. So, so we would actually go live on Sundays on TikTok. And there was a few times where I was hosting a live and there was like over like 10,000 people watching. So we let people know about the organization, how they're able to donate, that all you have to do to volunteer is just show up at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday on 5th and Town in Los Angeles. And we have a sign-up sheet, something free to sign, and then you're free to volunteer. And so it's really incredible because people come from all over to volunteer. So a lot of times we get asked like, oh, are you a church? Are you an organization? And we're like, no, we're not. Literally we're comprised of volunteers that just come from anywhere. And then they just show up to volunteer, just people with good hearts, pure souls that just want to give back. So, yeah.
Lovely. And basically, here's a person who used their platform, their influencer platform, to transition it for good, as opposed to, this makes money and I don't care about anybody else. And I'll just move to that part of LA where the money is and I'll mingle there. Instead, they turned back.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
Amazing.
No, so Victoria, so there's also like sort of a few other divisions of Starts With One Today. So she actually runs a men's transitional house. And like, meaning that she literally lives like in the hood, in the transitional house to manage the transitional house. So she's like a warrior. So we have, Skid Row Sundays or Sundays in Skid Row. And that's our Sundays where we're giving back, the food and hygiene things and clothing and whatnot. And then also she started a new thing, sort of towards the end of last year, which is Paws in Skid Row. So where they are partnering up with, other shelters and vet hospitals and things for abused and neglected animals in Skid Row.
I actually heard about that, not from you, but that came through me through some other people, and I thought it was amazing. And now here we are talking. Because I love that part of the program so much, take a minute to get into a little more detail about that, about how that is helping.
So, yeah. So as far as, you mean for the Paws in Skid Row, right?
Yes, yeah. Yes.
So, okay. So,
sorry, I'm a big animal advocate, so I have to take a moment of your time.
Yeah, no, I mean, Victoria has like 5 dogs. So, one of her friends, she had been involved in a lot of, like animal rescue herself. And so they kind of like partnered up together. And what they did was they were able to, when they first started, they were able to bring also like a vet, and they just kind of like walked around Skid Row and were able to give some of the pets like, vaccines, give them leashes, give them dog food and whatnot. And so now, that the word has gotten out, when they hear that there's like abuse happening or neglect, then they, sort of stage a plan on how they can rescue that particular animal. Then they, fundraise to get the money so then that dog can get the care that it needs, or pet can get the care that it needs, go to, a veterinary hospital, and then they do a fostering program, and then eventually, hopefully, to be able to get adopted. So I don't know the numbers on how many they've, saved as of today. This is something that they are doing, every week and whatnot. And so sometimes there are emergencies. And then also actually there is so an organization in New York called Pit Bulls and Addicts, and that's a friend of mine. And so I connected him with Victoria because so he has a huge program out there on the East Coast where they are rescuing, abused and neglected dogs. And so they have like a house called Freedom House for all their dogs. And literally they have now shipped some dogs out here in Skid Row out over there. So it's been this incredible, beautiful thing of collaboration on really wanting to help, save these animals. And so, so there's been some emergencies where it's like, we didn't have the resources yet because we just started out here. So then we were able to connect, with our, sister organization out there. So yeah, it's been a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And that's what it's about, right? The networking to do good. again, the humanity of it, right, as it should be.
Yeah.
Now, aside from these sort of more desperate and emergency programs, the transition housing, it kind of, helps people, ex-cons, incarcerated people who are who are starting their lives, immigrants who don't know where they're going, what they're doing, refugees, things like that, where, you're helping them out. And also low-income families in South Central LA. And one thing that you guys are doing that I find really amazing is the kids program. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the kids program. But I mean, the back to school events and the prom giveaways and things like that. And, that really aligns with me very well, because I have written often about a communal approach to raising children. Not in the sense that, everybody's a parent of the child, but in the sense that a 6-year-old doesn't understand why they can't have Christmas. They just can't. Right. It's just not a natural thing, right? So that's where this is born. I'm sure that's where this is born. I mean, it's born from the fact that every kid should appreciate, or should have, or every girl should feel beautiful at prom, or all these issues, right? And you guys are actually doing something about it, which is fabulous. Take another minute and tell me how that came about. What were the factors involved, and how easy is it to do that? Because, to run an organization, to run a charity, I know, is not easy. It doesn't matter who you have as a funder, as a donor, it's just not easy. There's a lot of factors. It's not just money. People think, oh, they get $1 million, it's easy, they're doing well. But the logistics is really hard. The strategy is really hard. But some aspects of what I do, what you do, I try to get the audience to get involved in on their own. We might have people listening in Greece. They don't necessarily need to come to your website or my website and donate to a cause all the way across the world. Right. But what they can do is they can take this part of it and say, hey, all I have to do is ask my kids or their school, who's not doing so well in this school, and how can we help? Let's make a little fund in school, and the parents who can afford to just put a few $1,000s in there. Let the school manage it. Let not even those families feel like it's charity or anything like that. Let this just be a program, so to speak, right? And maybe all the kids can go on that field trip. Maybe all the parents can sign for that field trip. So, tell me a little about how that is, and how you imagine, this is a communal thing and not necessarily a 501c3 issue.
So I 100% agree. And I love that idea too, as well. I think that the communities that get active in believing in that sort of pay it forward concept of where, like, I've seen where they, put up papers and then they put like money on there and they say, take what you need. And then people be like, well, I have more than I need. So then they put a $20 up on there, that kind of concept. So again, as far as like utilizing the influencer network, we were able to receive like a whole bunch of dresses, right? So that's kind of what started the prom giveaway thing, was because like we received hundreds of dresses from another influencer who was giving dresses from brands and things like that, right? So then we're like, well, what are we going to do with it? So that was the whole thing. And also to partnering up with another nonprofit organization that's a little bit larger and it has worked with the schools and the students and things like that. So we were able to kind of tap in that way. And then, so as far as doing the prom giveaway, and as well as selecting, a few young ladies for their makeover. And so we're able to have makeup artists and hairstylists come and donate their time. Also too, the shoes were donated to as well. So, the girls were able to really like come in and like feel like they were shopping, and this is not like, low quality dresses or shoes either. You know what I mean? So I know that they all had to have felt incredibly amazing and felt really good. Also too, in doing the back to school drive. So back with the mention of True Classic. So how we had all the, the tops and the shirts and the collared shirts and things like that. So we were able to do that too as well. So back to school drive, receiving donations like, more shoes and backpacks and things like that. Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely from a community aspect of just like, making people more conscious and aware of the fact that like we all have our ups and downs, and and you never know what somebody's going through, and certain things can come out of the blue all of a sudden and hit a family really hard. They may not have the means to be able to provide for their kids or give them what, they need. And so, so I definitely resonate with just that concept, and also was sharing with, like your community, your viewers, for them to think about like what's going on in their communities and how you can help, because that's just really how we will make the world a better place, is by, just extending that hand and offering that and having that mentality, so that people also don't have to feel ashamed too as well, or prideful, yeah.
No, it's amazing, because I notice in certain communities, in certain places where that communal feeling is stronger than in North America sometimes. In cultures that have that communal feeling. And, just south of the border, Mexico. I mean, Mexico is one of the countries where, all neighbors know each other. You can't walk into a neighborhood and people don't know each other, or people don't even know the gossip from 10 minutes ago. It just, everything is known in the neighborhood. So, in a place like that, if someone's parent has a heart attack, for example, is in the hospital, neighbors will take care of the kids. Neighbors will take the kids to school, bring them back, feed them, everything, Right. So there is that communal aspect. Right. And the reason why I touched on that is exactly for that. A lot of the world is based on that kind of lifestyle, because a lot of countries in the world are much poorer than we imagine right now. And they only get by because they share that loaf of bread. It's not because everybody has a loaf of bread. And Right. when we kind of appreciate that we do have a loaf, we should also appreciate that there's somebody who now doesn't have half a loaf, because that half a loaf is with me. And Right. let me find a person to have a half a loaf with. And, Right. That's where that goes from. And I love that you guys are doing that, giving, people dreams, even if it's for a day, you're giving them something that they feel empowered with for Right. that moment. And really, that's beautiful.
Well, so now, I'm sorry. Ahead. Well, I was gonna add on to that, because so one of the phrases that we share every Sunday is, we say that, and remember that everybody is somebody's somebody. Everybody is somebody's mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, aunt. So please treat them with kindness and respect, even if they don't treat you nicely. They woke up in intent, you did not. And so that's like that right there, that why I have it memorized, is because literally that's what is said every single Sunday. And so, and, it's just being mindful and remembering that, right? And so like you're mentioning, like, I know that there are some communities like that in the US where it is like that, but that starts with whoever is sort of the heart and soul of that particular neighborhood that starts it, right? Because not all neighborhoods are like that. Like my neighborhood is not like that, but there are neighborhoods that are like that, out there, but that's just not my neighborhood.
No, of course. I mean, even, I lived in Toronto for many years, and I frequented New York very often, and I had friends who lived there, and I remember they didn't know the people who lived in their building, and I used to work in the finance world then, and I was always curious. I'd make small talk with everybody, because you never know where a client is, and that was my mentality, right? I was really going for the clientele, so you never know who's a client. So I had more friends in some of my friends' buildings than they did. And so there, these people would ask them, like, "Oh, where's Ali? When is he coming back?" Or, things like that. And they started becoming friends. And, back then, I started creating, pools of funds for projects and things like that through these people. Today, I try to, reverse that and do the same thing for support and help. But, and you say that throughout everything you've been saying here is, I have a friend in New York, we network with them. I have a friend here, we did this with them. And it's always these networks that come together, and you guys are just using it for really, heartful stuff and amazing work. So everybody can do that. It's not just about you as a person, and it's not just about, look, if you don't call Elani, there's no hope. You can't just do that in your community in another country. Everybody can do that. You are kind of like the role model organization to say, look, a few people came together, they're friends, they're like, what the hell, fine, 8:30, 11:30 Sundays, let's try it. One thing led to another, it expanded, and then now it's become an organization, structured, proper, funded, and all of that, and it's growing and it's doing more. And that's how it starts. That's the amazing part of it. Now, within this organization, you play a specific role. And I know your role is, I couldn't do it, I'll be honest, as much as, I manage a charity as well and all of that, but I can't be on that front line of the phone calls and the support groups and, talking to people directly and admissions and all of that, because I'm weak. So, to me, it's kind of like, whoever's in that line here, just bring all of them in and just give them everything. Here's the shirt off my back. And, it just, and I can't even see through the cracks. So I'm sure there's difficult stories that, you just can't deal with. I'm sure there are stories that are easier to help. And I'm sure there are problems within the cracks. Can you kind of give me a little bit of each? Tell me the inspiring story. Tell me the story that'll bring tears to your eyes right now, and tell me the story of somebody, taking advantage of a situation.
Okay. So, loaded question.
Yes.
So specific to my role, so I'll explain it to you guys. So this is kind of how it looks like on a Sunday. So we set up all the tables and we put the food, the clothes, all that stuff on the tables, and there's a line. Now, the people start lining up the night before. So what we have is somebody that does live on Skid Row that we've grown to trust, that will give out like a small little postcard note of who is in what order, right? And then that morning, on Sunday morning, then when we get there, then now we hand out numerical tickets. The tickets with the long numbers on them. Yeah. So we give them out in order. And then we start setting up at 8:30 in the morning. So one of the things that just kind of ended up becoming sort of my job was because when other people tried to do it, it became chaos and dangerous. So we do have security now. We did not always have security. For the first 2 years, we did not have security. We would have like men. And actually, I do want to say this, is that we really do have an equal amount of men and women that volunteer their time. And I'm always so proud just to see how many men come and volunteer their time. It's amazing. Yeah. So, since we wouldn't always know like who's going to show up, that was kind of the challenge in the beginning, right? Is because like, are we going to have enough protection, So as much as we want to have the heart to give and to serve, there are people that, like are not mentally healthy. And so they can be dangerous, right? So then we would have certain men kind of like stand there, whatever. So we had to like work out those kinks. But as far as like for me, and then that became my job, was to manage and run the line. And what that means is I'm like, as Victoria calls it, I'm the gatekeeper. So they have to come through me in order for them to be able to walk through the line to receive, the food and the clothes and whatnot. So, in preparation actually for this, in the morning, before I even get there, I do actually like a whole practice of like meditation and prayer. And I visualize the area and I visualize the space to fill it with light. And to fill it with love and, and ask for protection, right? So I tested it out actually, where I didn't do it. And then like terrible things happened and stuff like that, so I like really tested it out. And so then I started sharing it with some of the other volunteers and they're like, did you do your thing this morning? And so I was like, yes, I did. They're like, okay. And so, so what is, now why it's easier, I think, is because most of the regulars and a lot of people, like, they know who I am and they know how our process is and they know how it works. We also did not start off with the ticket system. So mind you, before a ticket system, you can imagine, then it was probably a little bit more chaotic, which it was. And so now, because of, even if there's newcomers and they see, oh, okay, like everybody's following the system, like I guess I should fall in line and do that. But we, of course, will always have those that want to try to infiltrate the system. Like, for example, this last Sunday, a gentleman, he was maybe like 60 people back, right? But he came to the front of the line and I'm like, sir, it's not your turn yet. You're going to have to wait. And then he was like, man, he's like, I don't care about this SHIT. He's like, I get money. I don't even need this. F that, whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, well, just wait right there, okay? Whatever. So then he starts talking and I'm like thinking in my mind, okay, is he going to escalate or what's going to happen, right? So mind you, the security like actually has mentioned that when I'm there, the line runs smooth. When I'm not there, it's chaotic. So he doesn't even he's not even like near me. He's on the whole other side. So he doesn't see what's actually happening anymore because he trusts me so much. But anyway, so now I have this man here who's like running his mouth and I'm having to still deal with the people and, letting them go through the line. And so, so then what ends up happening is because like I remained calm and I just kept, validating him and listening to him or whatever, then he ended up calming down. He started like complimenting me, started saying all kinds of positive things. And then he waited. He literally waited for 60 people to pass him. And then he calmly went on in the line, So, so that's one of the things is that I've had to learn to be very firm with like following my own protocol and following my own system. Right. And so now,
but also you're doing it mindfully and conscious of who you're dealing with. So for everybody listening, especially the police, de-escalate the situation. Try to deal with people in a way that they can understand, because there's a lot of people who are, like you said, this gentleman, who comes in with that situation, you don't know what baggage he's bringing.
He told me that he has bodies. He so he told me he had bodies, right? He's an ex-Crip gang member, like the whole nine. So everything that he could have been saying, he was saying. So in my mind, I'm having to like really determine like, okay, right. Do I need to call security or not?
How dangerous is this situation, basically, right? But I mean, that's what I mean. You stuck to your protocol, so to speak, your meditative flow of saying, I can handle this with love because it's more powerful than any other strengths in here. And, holding him down, throwing him out, whatever else is not going to help the situation. So you kind of, were able to bring that person to a level where they understood, that it's better to do it this way. And like you said, they waited for 60 minutes, 60 people and, however long that took. And you guys chatted throughout that time, maybe bits here, bits there. And you were patient through all of that. And, it worked out. Whereas you could have used your power, your authority. And that's why I said the police, because, that's our authority for security. And when you come in with certain authority, you don't have the time, you don't have the patience, you don't want to deal with it. You're like, just put this guy in handcuffs, throw him in the back of the car, let him cool down there. We don't need to worry about it, as opposed to taking that extra 10 minutes, because you come in from this mentality of I have to secure the space, and secure meaning I have to put my foot down and teach people I'm the law. Whereas you didn't do that. You showed people this is a space of love. Come into the space of love and everybody can work together and everybody can flow together in that space of love, which is lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that story.
Okay. So, all right. I have a story about a sweet lady. So she was coming through the line and she has this cute, adorable dog. And so she told me that the story about how she got her dog. So she said that somebody gave her this cute little puppy, and it was so cute that everyone kept trying to steal the dog from her, and like to where they were, willing to like fight for the dog and, all of that. And so at the time she was heavy into drugs. So she was a major drug addict and, whatnot. And she basically like had a conversation with God and was like, God, please, I promise I will stop the drugs. I will get clean if you let me keep this dog. And she literally is like, so when I'm seeing her is literally 5 years later, and she stopped cold turkey. She stopped cold turkey the drugs, and she still has her doggy. And she's just the sweetest. She's this older lady, sweetest lady. Yeah. So that's like one of my like favorite little stories. And then also too, there's this one woman who she is a regular, and she used to come through the line like with dirt all over her, like crusted dirt. Okay. And then sometimes she'd be carrying like a bucket of dirt, and then she'd be like trying to mess with it. And then like it would look like she was making some sort of concoction because she put leaves and all this stuff or whatever. So you could tell she's not like all the way there. Right. So like over time, as we're seeing her week by week, then she started to get like more clean, and she got like a haircut, and then her clothes weren't as dirty and stuff. So, so I talk to her like, every Sunday and stuff. And she tells me that like, I'm taking my meds. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. And she's like, yeah. And so then, so recently she kept like losing her ticket. Right. So I taught her like a lesson like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, okay, because you lost your ticket, you're going to stand right here and you're going to wait. So you're going to watch all these people go before you because you lost your ticket. I'm like, you cannot lose your ticket, whatever. And so then this last Sunday, I was so proud of her because she was in line in order and she had her ticket in her hand. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. I was, and she was like smiling and stuff. And it's so amazing to see because like she's clean and she doesn't have dirt on her anymore and all that stuff, So yeah, so there's like these, stories where like I'm seeing, or we are seeing like the improvements of people. There's been a handful of individuals where we've seen them at their worst. Like, I mean, to where they would be like unrecognizable. So for instance, like they're coming through the line, they're cursing everybody out, they're yelling, like they're just not in their right mind, right? And then, months later, whatever happens in their life, I don't know, if they got put on meds or had to be put in a hospital or whatever, and then they're better because then now they are able to go through the line, actually conduct conversation with people, have a smile on their face, and then literally be able to say, oh, I would like to have, the celery, please. I would like to have this, please. Like, huge difference then from where they were when they couldn't even like compose themselves at all. So, so like I think in the light of how, like we judge people, the houses are extremely vulnerable because they don't get to have the protection and safety of being in their homes, right? As we say, all people, right? We don't know what happens behind closed doors. So if you have a family and you live in a home or an apartment or whatever, you have that ability to be able to like have your worst days behind closed doors where other people can't see what you're going through to judge you, right? But the houses, they're out there, they're vulnerable, and they need to eat, and they have to come to people in order for them to eat, for them to survive, And so if we're seeing them in their worst days, and and we don't judge, right? We don't judge. Now, if obviously they escalate things and to where we feel that they're dangerous or whatever, then we do have to remove them. So bringing to the reality of that, I'll share some other types of stories. So yeah, so one of like the scariest times was when we didn't have security, and there was a man who got really pissed off and got angry, and so he came back with a machete. So
a machete.
Yeah, a machete. And so then one of our volunteers, he also was a Skid Row member, so he had like a knife pretty like a decent sized knife, maybe like this, I guess, in his back pocket or whatever. And obviously we called 911, and it just became like a, a threat to threat sort of match of, like, don't come near us type of thing. Right. So thankfully nobody was hurt then. And we have had a handful of times where people have, threatened Victoria's life. She's gotten punched a few times, had things thrown at her, yeah, she's been called every single name in the book. And then, for example, there was a woman who, so she saw me and she thought that like I was her, like a family member of hers. And I guess she experienced a lot of trauma with her family. And so she was like threatening to kill me. Right. And so every time that I was just saying, like, I was like, God bless you. I'm like, I love you. That literally disturbed whatever was going on with her even more. Anytime I said anything more positive to her, it made her get even more mad, even more angry, all this stuff or whatever. So then, so as she's just standing there and saying all these things to me or whatever, then she tries to lunge and hit me. And then like immediately, like 5 male volunteers and also the Skid Row members, they get like right in the middle of us or whatever, and they throw her into the street, because a lot of the Skid Row members too also know that like, they come to our rescue too as well. So like, even when we didn't have security, some of the Skid Row members that don't even go through our line, when they were called upon to help us with like a security issue, they came because they know that we are providing for their community. So back to the whole subject of how, communities can come together or neighborhoods can come together. We've seen that. And I've witnessed that personally because like there's been men that I've not ever seen go through our line that live on Skid Row. And when we had a security issue, they were called upon and they came with, like big sticks or whatever weapons they had, and they helped handle it for us. So yeah. So that's kind of there. It takes a certain type of person to be able to do what I do. Now, like the majority of our volunteers, they're behind a table. So they're behind a table, and they're basically only giving them like, the food or the clothes or whatever. So at this point, they're not really going to come across, people.
It's after the conflict.
Yeah. So the volunteers, are safe, and it is safe to volunteer and whatnot. But as far as like, in my position or whatever, or Victoria, who's just like overseeing everything and is the, the top
all
person.
Over the place, right?
Yeah. That, we may, have some risks that we're facing. Right. So, yeah.
And so in that sense, let me call you the conflict zone, because, whatever happens with you. And then once they pass that, they reach the point where your average person who says, you know what, I'm going to show up this Sunday and help and whatever, they're just doing the help part. I mean, and also I think going back to the whole community issue, people know by now that you are the person to have the conflict with. So if they were going to pick a fight, or if they were going to, have an outburst of some sort, it's not going to be with a random stranger that they've never seen in that line. It's going to be with Elani, because they see her all the time. She's always there trying to compose and try to keep everything going and all that. So it also creates that understanding that, this is the person you want to go to. So I think that makes it safer, being that you're the constant there every Sunday, so to speak, or Victoria is the constant there also every Sunday. So it helps that way. And I've experienced what you were saying. I was in Iraq a while back, and I was helping with a friend of mine who, they do something similar, like what you guys do. Their Sundays are Fridays over there, and every Friday his mom cooks this huge feast that feeds about 500 people.
Wow.
And and they have these like pots that are huge, like me and you can both sit in it, like a mini jacuzzi. Okay. And yeah, and they cook in that. And then they, the men pick that up and they put it on a large pickup truck bed, and they take it into the area. And it's kind of like your Skid Row. And then, they just bring plates out and they feed people and whatnot. And so when they reach that area, right before I went one time with them, right before they get into the zone, they honk a special way. And then all of a sudden, a few guys come out, and these are kind of the security, the macho men of the neighborhood. They're really scared of them, like the gang of the neighborhood. And so they come and they walk alongside the pickup truck, sort of to take it to, and then everybody lines up, everything's in order. And he was telling me one time, these people weren't there. They were playing soccer, and so they didn't hear him. And so he's there honking, and they didn't hear him. But everybody else knows this honk is this person bringing food. So they attacked the truck, and he had to back out and run away. And so the food fell, and people attacked the food, and he just took off, and it was like a disaster. So that's what it's right. About. It's about managing that community system. So I think part of it is getting to know the right people, building that trust in the community, and then bringing in the volunteers just to be able to help with the extra hands. Elani needs, 24 hands. She only has 2. So that, the other 22 needs to show up from somewhere to kind of support you, not in a sense to take over or anything like that. So a lot of times I say this only for volunteers, not to feel overwhelmed. A lot of people say, it's dangerous to go to Skid Row. I don't know if I should be there. Maybe I'll just give them $100, but I won't show up, and it's not only the money. It's also the showing up, and it's also the care, when you see it firsthand, and when people see it, when people there see somebody trying to help. And the volunteers may also bring an edge, an angle, something that they can help with, somehow support somebody there. Somehow, it could be a doctor volunteering and somebody needs meds and they just don't have access. The doctor says, you know what, I'll give you guys the meds to issue to this person and to let them heal and whatnot. So there's many ways of showing up really helps. Why did you choose to get involved with charities so much? And not, many people maybe ask you this. This is not the right way to ask it. I'll rephrase. Why are you doing this from a purpose perspective? Because we all like to be charitable, and I think there is a selfish angle to that. And I'll say it because I used to do that. When I had my fund, I was very wealthy, and I used to give away a lot of money. But it was always at these events where, it would showcase what I did, or it was somehow in a way that I could walk into that space and everybody kind of bows to me because, oh, that's the gentleman who gave this whole institution to us. That's the gentleman who gave this, house to the people. And I wasn't involved. It was a tax write-off, to be honest, a lot of the times. And a lot of people are like that. A lot of people will say, well, can you give me a tax receipt and things that they're not really involved, and even then I say, okay, it's still better than nothing. Yes, but it's not really there. It's different. What you're doing, what Victoria's doing, getting punched in the face and coming back is not a tax write-off. You can't write off a bruise, right? And you can't write off the fear of going to bed and thinking, I'm going to come back next Sunday. This time it was a bruise that I put some makeup on. It went, it covered it, and then it eventually went away. My cheek is still the same, no problem. Next time it could be a slash that'll leave a mark that'll never go away. Next time it could be an eye poke and I lose my eye. It could be anything, right? So to get up the next Sunday with more passion and try to secure more clothes and food and try to bring more volunteers to the table and try to help more people than the Sunday before takes a special kind of person. It's not, and you said this earlier, it's not for everybody. It takes a special kind of person. Who are you? What is that person that wakes up in the morning and says, no, I don't care. I'm doing this because this matters. That brunch in Malibu, that's not my Sunday. This is my Sunday.
Great question. So I grew up actually, like my identity is based off of giving. So I grew up in the church, and early on, we did like these camps where we were camp counselors, for the younger kids, or I did like vacation Bible school, and we volunteered our time to do stuff like that, right? And then we would also do giving back to the homeless too as well. So that was one of the things that I did early on as a young child. Like we bagged bags of food, and then helped pass it out. And I remember being in high school, and this was in San Francisco. And it was actually one of the churches that was in Pursuit of Happiness that we went to. And then we sat and had lunch with the, houseless there. So these things must have, like really just ingrained in me and became sort of a part of my identity. And then I became a mom. I have 3 sons, and now they are 17, 15, and 11. So the thing is that while they were younger.
You should have never said that. I would have never said you're more than 25, but 17,
Oh,
you can't be more.
So when they were younger, I couldn't volunteer my time or anything like that, right? But that was something that I had mentioned was missing from my life, but I was volunteering my time by raising my kids and spending time with them, right? And so what I really felt though when I wasn't giving back, like it was something that I did feel was like missing inside of me. So as soon as like they were old enough for me to be able to, venture out and, take some hours or whatever out of the week for me to be able to do that, then I was able to really get back to it. And I found that I do genuinely really care about people. I would say that I care about people that like are genuine, and I think actually, like, for example, the majority, I would say 95% of the people that go through, or 99% of the people that go through our line, we say, would you like another one? They say, oh, no, I'm okay. And they don't take more than what they need, So generally people that are in those positions, to me, like you're going to come across more genuine people that are in those positions versus like, because I'm a businesswoman, I'm an entrepreneur, I have, a handful of businesses. So I deal with a lot of different people and a lot of different successful people and whatnot. And so to me, the type of people that I come across, like I definitely just really care about helping those that are genuine. And I apply that across the board. So people that are successful and they're genuine, like we get along just fine, and I care about them wholeheartedly and I will help them to my, greatest extent. But yeah, it's really about, for me, just like wanting to nurture, genuine and caring and loving people, because those people that are there on the streets that are, passing a smile on to the next person, helping that next person be able to make it through the day or whatever, they're out there, and those people need those people too, And so I'm all about, you pouring into the next person for them to pour into the next person. So yeah, but that's kind of my philosophy.
And what are you doing with the 3 children to raise them in a way that this is being applied in their lives from now?
Mm-hmm. So I think I had mentioned that before COVID, right? I was driving around Skid Row and whatnot. So I had my boys, and a few of their friends actually. So we put together like plates, right? And then we went out and like literally got out of the car. I would take one child. Well, first I would assess the situation, right? And then I would bring one child out with the food, and then they would give it to them. So we've done things like that. And then also too, my middle son, he's more of like my football player. So he actually has physically come, and it actually showed me what I unconsciously have instilled in my children, because he was, I guess he was, he's 15 now. So maybe he was 13. So, okay. he was like handling the bread section, and I'm like at the line. So it's a few tables away. And there's a fight that breaks out right in front of him. Like, so, the table is what, like a 6x4 or something like that. So all that's in between him is this 4-foot table, and they're like fighting. And so I look down to check on my son, like, oh, is he okay or whatever? And he's totally unfazed. He's just like standing there. He didn't even like step backwards. He didn't act like nothing. So I was like, huh, okay. So I was like, all right, he's like calm, in a crisis situation. All right. And then he still continued and wasn't like, Mom, I want to go home. He wasn't like, and then like a second time, then there's a woman who's just like kind of cursing out, I guess the air, she was talking to herself and stuff like that. And she decided to have her little fit right in front of his table too as well. And so again, I just saw him like holding up the bread and like trying to give it to her, And I was like, okay, like, wow, and yeah, so, and then like my oldest son, like for one of his birthdays, we did a thing where like no gifts for him, pick a organization you want to donate to. And then he also raised money for like another kid who was sleeping on a couch. So yeah,
That's amazing. The middle child, I guess you learn patience, and that's how you become Elani in the future, to de-escalate situations, to be able to manage and to be able to understand people and really touch them heart to heart. And with the birthday exercise with your eldest, I mean, it teaches them that you have more than you need sometimes. And yes, you could want more. There's always more want. There's never a lack of want. But if you have what you need, and there are those who don't have what they need, maybe the want should be to equate that need as opposed to wanting more for yourself. And you're teaching that. That's a beautiful value to instill. And of yourself, in your story, you basically said upbringing. I mean, nurturing, putting those values in, with the church group and your family and everything else. It's really all about community. It's about the collective. It's about not being a capitalist by nature. And I'm not talking about the economic order. I'm talking about the opportunistic nature of people. I mean, that's how you become super successful. You have to take those opportunities financially to reach those levels. And, you kind of wear that suit when you go to manage your businesses. And then you come back and you wear this totally other suit when you, decompress and become the human version of yourself that you love, in terms of doing that. So amazing. There are people in LA who are listening to this, who are watching this probably at some point, in their lives in the weeks, months coming. If they want to show up, if they want to help, if they want to donate, all of that, give me your best marketing spiel right now.
Okay. So to assist the organization Starts With One Today, and to help us to be able to give back to the houseless community of Skid Row in Los Angeles, but also to our neglected and abused animals, and also to our transitional house and those that are trying to get back up on their feet, you can visit startswithonetoday.com, or you can visit any of our social media. It's Starts With One Today. Where you'll be able to donate directly. You'll be able to find out how you can bring us clothes, bring us shoes, bring us blankets. We also have an Amazon wish list too as well, which makes it very easy. You can buy tents, you can buy shoes, hygiene things. All of that is on the Amazon wish list, and it's sent directly to us as well. You can make monetary donations too as well. Yes, so we appreciate also too physically for people that want to show up. We are in Skid Row on 5th and Town every single Sunday. You come at 8:30 in the morning, and we'll have a little sign-up sheet for you, something for you to sign, and then you're just welcome to stay with us and volunteer until we are done around 11:30.
Elani K, thank you very much for this inspiring hour with you. You've shared stories that really touch home for me. You've shared strategies that just rolled off naturally off your tongue, but they're deep strategies. I mean, the collective, the community, and bonding and sensing and having that emotional attachment is amazing. I really encourage everyone tuned in and everyone listening to go on their social media, go on their website, and remember, donations are key to keeping such establishments on, because they don't sell anything. They sell love, and love is priceless. So you cannot buy love, but what you can do is you can support, charities and charities like yours. What you're involved with starts with One Today. All they do is they try to help where they can, and as they grow, they just help more. There's no difficult question there, and you can help by either donating or showing up or giving, whatever it is. But be involved and let your community grow. And even come in, if you're not in LA, talk to them. Go there, support them, talk to them, and say, hey, maybe we want to starts with One Today Philadelphia. There are a lot of places. New York, oh my God, I could just count the cities. Vegas, New Orleans. I mean, places I've been to that are so beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then you go to like you said, you walk a couple of blocks, Rodeo Drive, boom, couple of blocks, and you're in a place you don't want to be. So it's difficult. San Francisco, same thing. I mean, the Bay Area. Some of the dreamiest places in the United States, but then there are also areas that you wouldn't wish on your enemy. So there's a lot going on, and we really need that communal feeling. And you know what? For me, another part of this is it reduces your prejudice, your bias, and your discrimination, and things that are inherently within you as you grow up, potentially from your parents or your community or whatever. I've seen people lose their racist edge by being involved in these kind of institutions. I've seen people lose their homophobia. I've seen people lose their judgmental values in many ways. So, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I really appreciate the expanse of people in your organization, because, when you look at your website, there are people from all walks of life. There are names from all types of backgrounds and cultures involved. And, there's people visually from all sorts of places. And it's not really about you have a diversified group because the law or whatever. It's more so, a bunch of people came together. They just happen to be this way. And LA is really that kind of a melting pot, right? So on the one hand, I love LA for that, because I have friends there, and, you'd sit at a table and there's, all sorts of people that you wouldn't see normally. And you see that in LA. And I love that about LA. And, they just don't see the color. They don't see the culture. They don't see any of that. They just see heart to heart to heart and, the laughs that go with it. So, yeah, everybody get involved with them, reach out and help, because Skid Row is one of the places that it still shocks me when I talk about it today. It really still shocks me. And it's so sad because, I didn't want to say this, but I will say this. The government's not helping. I've personally been there. I've personally seen them try to hurt these people. And it hurts me to see the people who are supposed to protect you be the ones who are hurting you. And the irony of that is painful. So I'm going to end on that note, and I'm going to tell people to just be communal and come together. Subscribe here to our podcast so we can bring more of these stories to you, and potentially bring Elani back again with a bigger, greater outreach program and support system. Thank you, Elani. And thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.